Welcome back, everybody. Sarcasm Speaks, Jared and Bob here. We were just talking right before I hit the record button about betting on college lacrosse. We potentially could have a play tomorrow. I got to dig a little deeper into it. But I suffered my first defeat, and not only first defeat, first two defeats of the year yesterday in college lacrosse. So I started the season 6-0, and I am now 6-2. Right. So I mean, to be fair, as much as I was kind of like gloating and laughing and enjoying it, I knew I was going to lose at some point, right? It doesn't matter how many numbers you crunch or how many inside scoops you have or don't have, or not that I have inside scoops, but like, you know what I mean. Different angles you want to play or anything like that. You're not, say the season goes for like another 6 weeks ish, roughly. Um, what is that? 1 to 2 plays a week. That's 12. I wasn't going to go 18-0, right? 20-0, right? Say I had 20 bets all season in college lacrosse. I wasn't going to go 20-0, right? So the fact that I started out 6-0 was fun, right? Um, Obviously lost both plays that I had yesterday. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks a little bit more because I got absolutely fucking pounded in college basketball and golf this week. So not a good week, but I have had good or some success, right, leading into this week. So again, at the end of the day, it's kind of the law of averages, right? Like I think the last three weekends in golf, I've been plus units. Um, and that's really it. I haven't been betting much other than golf, obviously, until March Madness started. So, 3 weeks of plus units. And now this past week, the first week in March Madness, a golf tournament and two lacrosse games. It was a bit of a bloodbath. Um, but I mean, it is what it is, right? Like I said, it's the law of averages. Like it's all going to even out eventually, right? Like you're not going to win every bet you place. So you just deal with it, right? And you mentioned this before. It's being sticking to your guns, right? And sticking to like the system. And this is where a lot of people run into issues, right? Where, you know, just say, for example, you bet $10 a game, right? On let's use my college lacrosse example. You bet $10 every single game. You won all six of them, right? Now all of a sudden you're like, oh, look at me. I'm 6-0. I'm fantastic. I'm going to start betting $50 a game. Well, someone does that and it's like, okay, well, now you just lost $100 and you won, taking juice into account, you won, less than $60, right? If you bet 10 with the juice, you probably won $50, right? So, um, that's where people run into problems, right? But obviously, I didn't do that. um, I stick to my same bet all the time, my one unit, right? Or I guess you could call it a unit, right? But I do bet to cover the juice to win one unit, right? So it's whatever it is, a minus 110, minus 120, minus 115, right? I pay the juice to win one unit. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm fine, right? I'm not like, oh my God, I lost so much money. It's like, yeah, I lost some money, but I still have plenty of money in all of my betting accounts. So, um, yeah, just it happens, right? And it fucking sucks. It sucks when it happens, but it
Golf for a
happens.
long time. I gotta
Yeah,
really
this week
figure
in
out something.
particular was really gross for golf. The Valspar in and of itself is a shitty tournament. And I went 0-4, I believe, in all my bet. I think I had three top 20s and I took Cam Young outright.
Oh,
And
that
in
that so okay, so that's on you. Hand up.
in classic, oh no, I knew what was going to happen. And in classic Cam Young fashion, that he's done now 7 times or 8 times, I think I saw a tweet. He had a lead, whether on Saturday or Sunday, and he finished runner up. what did he bogey 17 or 18?
Oh, you 18.
Yeah, he bogeyed 18. He was in a tie for the lead with Peter fucking Malnati. Anyone out there that's like, oh, who's that? Exactly. He
Exactly.
sucks. He's an absolute loser. He golfs with a bucket hat and a yellow ball. He plays with a yellow ball on the professional PGA tour. Like it's just whatever. So he won the tournament because Cam Young is an absolute bum who cannot close. Um, but yeah, I took him to win, full knowing that that was going to happen, and that exact scenario did play out. Who my other bets were my three top 20s were Doug Gim, Keegan Bradley, and Brian Harmon. I think all three of them missed the cut.
Oh, Doug Gim made the cut. I'll get to that
Oh, okay. Oh, he
because
did make so
that was my guy.
Harmon and Keegan missed the cut then. So yeah, I mean, just not just all overall. I almost punted this weekend too because I was like, it's a Valspar, it's shitty, it's no one's there, it's an awful tournament. Um, and I was like, yeah, I'll just skip it. Then I was like, no, I'll just do it. I'll stay, I'll stay true, right? And that's what I get. I go 0 and 4 and lose there. So I don't know what I am in March Madness. I'm probably like 7 and 11 or something like that in March Madness. Like it's not, it's not awful, right? But it's certainly not. I'm not plus units. I put it that way. So
Gim, because I took him
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
So he missed the cut at the American Express. That was January 18th, 2 months ago. Since then, Farmers, T13, Phoenix, T12, Mexico, T8, Cognizant, T16, Players, T16, Valspar, T60 fucking 7.
yeah,
In what was probably the weakest, no, Mexico was probably the weakest field, but in one of the weaker fields for the guy who I believe coming into the week was third in strokes gained total on the PGA Tour, T67. You've got to be fucking kidding me.
yeah,
I'm getting all of these guys 1 week too late because there was a week where I took Ben on and it's like it ended up being no sweat off my back because it was a bonus bet. But I took Ben on. He had like back to back T8s and then missed the cut shooting 80 on the second day. I'm like, I am like just fucking missing these guys.
yeah,
And that's the thing. It's like, do you keep punching or do you not? And then it's like the same guys kind of keep showing up. Like I keep looking at Keith Mitchell. And it's like I didn't go with him this week, and he almost fucking fucked that up too.
right,
Um, it's like how many times can I take fucking like Chris Kirk and JT Poston,
yeah.
Doug Gim. Like now I'm fucking cursed on Doug Gim. Like I don't know
Right.
when he's gonna play again. He probably
Well,
has
you
to
just
play.
said like he had five straight finishes in the top 20, and then you take him for top 20 and he finishes T65. Right. So it's like, what do you like? What can you do? Right. In that scenario, like it's just shitty timing. I did look up my record. I'm currently 10 and 14 in college basketball, about to be 10 and 15 because I had JMU plus 7.5. Shout out to Mitch. Um, I've been betting on JMU every single round so far. And by every single, I mean both because they played two games. They beat Wisconsin outright. And then right now they're down 90 to 53 to Duke. So they are not going to cover that 7.5 points. But like I said, shout out to Mitch, who works at JMU and friend of the show. Um, I tried to run with you guys as long as I could. What did we say they were? Are they the Dukes? We literally just did this in the last episode.
I
Um,
forget.
I think they're the Dukes. Yeah, I already forgot. Um, but yeah, so it was fun while it lasted there. About to go 10 and 15, and I still have Texas A&M plus 10 tonight, and then Yale plus 5.5 tonight also. So even if I win both of those, I still won't be back to even. So And to be fair, though, too, I've done absolutely zero research in college basketball. I know nothing about college basketball other than I knew I was just going to run with JMU. Like I put them in my bracket too. Just it's one of those stupid things, right? It's like, oh, I know someone that works at there. I'll just pick them to like go. I think I had them going to like the Sweet 16 um, in my bracket. But I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? I
I don't know.
don't know.
You were
It's
going on
gone.
about JMU, but
Oh, I
I
do
don't.
zero research in college basketball. I was tailing other people's picks. Um, so I happened to, you want to talk about shitty luck, right? So in the first round, right? So we talk mostly about Sammy P, who runs the Chicken Dinner podcast, who always tweets out about the bartender and the NFL and things like that. And then also, friend of the show, Ian McMillan, right, from the Bacon Bets podcast that we've had on a couple times here. Those are like the two main guys that I follow in like the sports betting world, whether it's their podcasts or on Twitter or whatever. Um, Obviously, knowing Ian, right, and we don't know Sammy P personally, but he does live around here. Local guy, even though he's from Chicago,
He's
but he
from
lives here
Chicago,
now. Um,
Chicago,
so
Vegas. Now he lives locally.
yeah,
Local guy.
so in the first round, right, I decided to tail Sammy P, right? And
I think that went 4
very
and
poorly.
6.
So I
Four and
didn't ta-
six in the first round.
obviously, as I just said, my record standing at 10 and 14. I haven't bet every single game, right? So Ian McMillan does. That's his shtick, right? He bets every single NFL game. He bets every single March Madness game, whatever. Like I'm not doing that. I'm not betting every single March Madness game, right? Especially because I have to tail people. So it's like I'm not doing any research on my own. So I'm not, right? Again, I've made 24 25, 26. After today, it'll be 27 bets, and there's been 32 and 16, whatever that is, right? Today ends the round of 32. So what's that? 48. There's been 48 games played when today is over, and I've bet on about half of them. So I tailed Sammy P in round one, and that did not go well for me. Sammy P got fucking shellacked. And conversely, Ian actually did okay. So he, I think, had a better than 500 average. However, he went to the Barclays Center for all of the round one games on Friday. And he bet obviously every single game, and then he made a parlay. It was like a 5 game parlay because he was going to be at all 5 games. And his bet for that 5 game parlay swept. He hit all 5 legs. So he crushed. And
I didn't even see that he did that.
I did not tail those picks. Um, so I did not do as well as Ian. So what I said was, okay, on Saturday, it seems like Sammy P's a little off, right? Maybe I'll tail Ian's picks. So on Saturday, I tailed Ian's picks, and gamble or giveth, gamble or taketh away. Uh, Ian did not do well on
Don't worry,
Saturday.
you didn't miss out on Sammy P. You went 2-2.
Yeah, yeah. So again, I didn't bet every single game, right? But the ones that I went haven't done awesome. And so today, what I did was I'm gonna wait for both of them to put their picks out, and I'm gonna see if they have any like picks. And those are the ones that I'm gonna go with. So today I've only bet 3 games, right? I only have 3 games. And two of them were picks from Ian and Sammy P, because I just took JMU just because again, I've been riding the JMU train. Why not? Right? Again, I'll donate money just for a good cause, right? To support Mitch's school. Um, so the JMU pick was my own, although I think Ian might have also been on JMU. But my other two picks, like I said, were Texas A&M plus 10, and then Yale. I think Ian had Yale on the money line, which was like plus 280 or something. And then I think Sammy P.
Sammy P was on Grand Canyon in the first half, Grand Canyon full game, and Utah State.
Okay. All right. So maybe I didn't see his picks then. Um, that could have been it. I could also have my days mixed up where my plan was to see if they had any both. Um, but he might have not had his picks out yet. I don't know. Whatever. Regardless, I took Yale plus 5.5. Ian has them on the money line. So only two bets today. Like I said, outside of my ride the JMU train. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? It's just it's a down week. It happens. Can't win them all. The good news though is some of those losing bets were covered with like bonus bets and fucking profit boosts and things like that. So even though it's going to end up being like 10 and 15, the unit loss might not actually reflect that accurately, right? Because like one of them was like a no sweat bet that lost, which means like I think DraftKings does their no sweat where they give you a DraftKings was a bet and get, right? So you bet $10 and they give you $10. And then FanDuel was a no sweat. So you bet and lose, they'll reimburse you if you lose, right? So like a couple of those, like it didn't really matter. So it kind of offset the loss. But again, whatever. It happens. Have you bet any March Madness at all?
I followed Sammy P. I'm getting shelled,
Oh yeah.
getting absolutely drilled. He's 6-8, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird year. Um,
I was gonna say just from like the observation, it does seem like all I don't want to say the public teams because I don't think that's necessarily correct, but it's always like it just seems like every team that you think would be like exposable is not only winning, but they're covering. They're killing people. Like
yeah.
absolutely drilling teams. And like all the stupid narratives too, like, oh, Izzo in the first round. It's like that hit.
Yep.
Duke has been drilling people.
Yep.
Um, Nobody like Kansas out. Um,
Everyone
um,
was pounding Kentucky. They
I think
lost in the
so. I think a lot of people
first
hated
round.
Kentucky. A lot of people hated Kentucky. That was the thing is like CMP had a future on it, so I was in on that too. But everyone was like, nope, can't play defense. Nope, can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. Auburn though, Auburn's the team. No, they're out.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, like Purdue, usually that's like the fancy one. Like, I'll bet against Purdue. They've been drilling
They've
teams.
been crushing. Yeah.
UNC's been drilling teams.
Houston. Although
Yeah,
they play tonight, but everyone's like, oh, what was it? Everyone was saying, oh, if there was ever a 16 that was going to upset a one this year, it would be Longwood over Houston. Well, like that was the narrative. It
drilled
was
them.
like, yeah, and they absolutely fucking murdered them. So, like I said, I'm on A&M plus 10 against Houston tonight, so we'll see how that ends.
They'll probably lose by fucking 40.
Yeah,
Like that just seems to be how it's going this year.
yeah.
And yeah, okay, so you do, but it's like okay, so people like, but Auburn lost, and I forget who Auburn lost to. Yale? No, it doesn't matter. There's been
Oh,
like
yeah, I don't
four
know.
to six. There's been like 4 to 6 upsets, like big ones,
Yeah.
and it's like there's 48 games. That's not that many, and it really seems like because that's where like people who have been betting a while. Generally, what you like to do is fade the narratives. So you want to go. Well, everybody's going to take Michigan State because Izzo in the first round. And it's like, that's not an actual like handicapping strategy. And then when you
Yeah.
actually look at the games, now I don't break down games. I just tail, but I don't know what Michigan State looked like, but I know they were a fucking, what, an 8 or a 9.
Michigan State was a 9.
So they're a 9. That's not
Mississippi
a,
State was the
that,
8. Yeah.
that's not 1 through 4. So
Correct.
obviously Michigan State is not that good of a team. Now, Izzo in the first round. How do you bet against it? I don't know, man. It's an 8-9 matchup. It should have been fairly even.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Izzo again. Wow. The 9 beat the 8. What a surprise.
Yeah.
And then it's like it goes to the second round and it's like, Izzo, there might be something there. Nope, got drilled. But
Yeah.
absolutely fucking labeled. I forget who they played. That might
UNC.
have been UNC.
It was.
But it's like,
Also, Yale beat Auburn.
okay, so Yale did beat Auburn. But
Yeah.
so like that was an upset, fine, because a lot of people did like Auburn to win it all.
Yep.
It just doesn't seem like a lot of the quote unquote flawed teams are really fucking getting exposed for their flaws. It
Right.
seems like a lot of the teams that people thought were going to be pretty good, well, but there has been no buts. The teams that are not very good have not moved on, and the teams that are good have moved on, have covered, and pretty much took any and all hope away from the other team. It hasn't been particularly close. I don't know if I've seen this many fucking 20 plus point wins
Yeah.
in the last
Arizona
like,
has been crushing. They beat Long Beach State
although
by
they didn't cover that first game. They
What
either
was the spread?
pushed
20 and a half?
20 or 20 and a
21.
half.
Yeah. They won by 20.
Yeah, so we either pushed
Um,
or lost.
and then they beat Dayton by 10. And a lot of people I saw were taking Dayton in that game.
Yep.
But again, they win by 20 in the first round, they win by 10 in the second round. Now they're going to play the winner of Clemson Baylor. And Clemson is actually up by 10 against Baylor right now
They've been
at the
drilling teams too.
yeah.
He fucking killed New Mexico. And a lot of the guys that do this either semi professionally, they like New Mexico. New Mexico had some really good things. And
Yeah.
Ian's big thing was, the ACC is like fraud. I don't think he called them frauds because when he calls people frauds, he fucking means it. He did
Right.
not believe that the ACC was a very strong conference, and he did not believe that they should get their teams. So what did a lot of people do? Because a lot of people agreed with that. Bet against
Right.
Clemson, bet against NC State. What do those teams do? Fucking annihilate whoever the fuck they played.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it's
everyone
like,
was shitting all over NC State. I remember that being like, they
yeah,
don't
because they
belong
shouldn't have won
here.
their
They
conference,
shouldn't have won the
and
conference. They got lucky.
then they put it to whoever they played.
Yeah.
And I assume they've won twice. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, they crushed Texas Tech.
that was another.
Uh,
People like Texas Tech.
yeah, so they beat Texas Tech 80 to 67.
They killed them.
Yeah.
And people like Texas Tech to like go on like a little run. Oh, they play in the
And
Big 12. The
then
Big 12 is the best basketball conference this year.
and then NC State just beat Oakland.
Wow. That's
So now
Oh, that was
NC
in
State,
overtime. That
yeah.
was in overtime.
So now NC State is in the Sweet 16 against Marquette, who everyone hated. Everyone was saying Marquette was the worst 2 seed ever. And Marquette's in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And Kentucky lost in the first round. Yeah, and Auburn lost in the first round. Right?
I still
Like
have a
all of
I
these
still have a
teams,
fucking future on Creighton. Did they get knocked out yet
no, they're playing Tennessee
tonight?
in the Sweet 16. So I
Oh,
don't
they're
know if
moved
that's
on.
tomorrow. I don't know if the games have been announced yet.
No, I don't think it'll be tomorrow. They don't play again until what, Thursday?
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever the next round is. I don't know.
I want to say they play. I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday again.
Yeah.
And that gets you to, so you have your 16, which is 8 games. So I think you play 4 and 4.
But like you want to talk about chalk. right? So far, so the Midwest bracket is complete, right? It's done through the Sweet 16. It's number 1 Purdue against number 5 Gonzaga, and then it's number 2 Tennessee against number 3 Creighton. So it's the 1, 2, 3, and 5 seeds.
Yeah. And who
And
did
Creighton
Gonzaga
and
beat?
Gonzaga beat Kansas, who was the
They
4.
they drilled them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. A lot of people
80,
were
89 to 68.
and a lot of people were tons of people took Gonzaga because they didn't believe in Kansas. And Kansas was hurt. They lost that player.
Right. Right.
So it's like that one specifically, that's all chalk all the way through.
Yeah. So far in the West bracket, the only 2 teams that have advanced to the Sweet 16 as of right now, number 1 UNC, number 2 Arizona. The game right now is between number 4 Alabama and number 12 Grand Canyon. So if Alabama wins and Baylor win, well, Baylor's down by 10 points right now. So let's say this continues and Clemson wins, and the Alabama game literally just started. It's 8-7 right now, so there's no way to know. But just say Alabama and Clemson wins, then in the West you're looking at the 1, 2, 4, and 6, right? And then the East bracket tonight is actually in like 10 minutes is UConn Northwestern. They're the 1 seed, and then San Diego State and Yale is tonight as well. But already advanced in the East is number 2 Iowa State, who's playing number 3 Illinois.
Yeah. And
So
that was the
like,
thing is like Illinois was one of those teams too, where it's like the semi-sharp or sharp action was like, ooh, I don't know about Illinois. They got like X flaw, X flaw, X flaw, and Y
yeah.
flaw. And everybody bet against Illinois in that first round, and they got fucking pumped. I don't even know who they played. It doesn't matter.
So then in the last bracket is the South bracket. There's 3 teams advanced already. It is number 2 Marquette, who's playing number 11 NC State, and then it's number 4 Duke, who just beat JMU 93-55. Yikes! Sorry, Mitch. And then tonight is number 1 Houston against Texas A&M. So Houston's probably going to pump A&M because I have A&M plus 10. Um, so you're potentially looking at in the South the 1, 2, 4, and 11, right? So your Sweet 16 could potentially be the 1 San Diego State, Yale. Who knows? Let's say San Diego State wins because Yale shouldn't be there. So let's say it's the 1, 2, 3, 5 in the East, the 1, 2, 4, 6 in the West, the 1, 2, 4, 11 in the South, and then the Midwest actually is complete, and it's the 1, 2, 3, 5. Like it literally doesn't get any more fucking chalkier than that. I mean, obviously the 11 NC State could be more chalky, but that's the one team that's not a top 5 seed is NC State.
But that's the problem is Oakland upset Kentucky in the first round, and then NC State drew Oakland.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't think Oakland covered that game because I think it got to overtime and then they won by 7.
Yeah. It's like all number 1 seeds are still alive. It's just nuts, especially after everyone's like, oh, Purdue, they're going to lose. They always choke. They're going to lose. And they may lose to Gonzaga in the Sweet 16, but they just beat Utah State 106-67. They
Like
beat
40
Utah
points.
State by 40 points. It's technically 39 points, but 40 points they just won by. Like
So
it's
what's
just
the
kind of
narrative
wild.
when it's Gonzaga and Purdue? They both can't choke.
Right. Yeah, exactly. One of them's got to win. So I don't know. It's just weird. It's a weird year, right? Because how often is it ever like that? And I don't know. I don't follow it closely enough to be like, oh yeah, in 2018 it was, you know, three one seeds and a six in the final four or whatever. Like I have no idea. I
I
have
want to
no
say,
fucking clue about that.
I want to say there was like 1 year in the last fucking 15 that all ones advanced. It might have been the year Kansas beat Memphis.
Yeah. Shout out to Derrick Rose back when he had actual knees.
Mario Chalmers, was he on Kansas?
He could have been. Yeah.
Might have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been getting fucking slapped around.
Yeah. And I
And that's the
know
thing
the
is like,
second I change my attitude and I go, oh, I'll just start betting chalk, then they'll all lose. That'll
right.
be when Purdue loses. And that's when UConn will get upset, right? And it's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and Duke finally like, yeah. And everyone will be like, oh, yeah, NC State still sucks, haven't beat anybody yet. And then it's like they'll go to the Final Four.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be NC State versus Clemson in the final because the ACC is a garbage conference.
Yep. Yep. Although, is that possible? Are
I don't know.
they?
I don't know. I haven't looked at one bracket.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I just closed the bracket out.
Don't even worry about it.
Yeah, because I don't know. What are we looking at here? What did you say? Clemson and NC State?
Yep.
No, they're in the same. They're in the same conference. It's the West Conference, so they would have to play each other eventually.
Um, it's too bad.
They would play each other in the Elite Eight, but nope, that's the wrong North Carolina. That's UNC. NC State's in the South.
Is it possible to get four ACC teams in the Final Four? I
Um,
don't think it is because UNC and Clemson. I think you just said UNC
yeah,
and Clemson
UNC
would have
and
to play each
Clemson
other.
are both in the West.
Duke, Clemson
Duke is in the South. NC
with
State is
Clemson
also
or
in the
NC
South.
State.
Yeah,
I think that's all that's left.
yeah. But of the teams that have advanced, right? It's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. There's 11 teams that have advanced so far. You've got UNC, Duke, NC State. Those are your ACC teams.
Yeah,
So is
I would
that
say that's
three?
probably it. It's
Yeah.
4 out of 11.
But the ACC
Not
is
bad for a conference
trash.
that can't play basketball.
Yeah. Is UConn ACC or are they the Big East still? Is it
They are
different with
not
basketball?
ACC.
Okay.
I don't know what the conferences are because I remember like the Big East like disappeared, but then it came back.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, um, have you seen or heard of any of this crazy shit with the Nickelodeon stuff?
No, not at all.
Um, Dude, it's really fucked up. So Amy and I watched the it's like a four-part like docu series, right? It's like a little mini series on HBO Max. Um and it's called, what is it called? Quiet on the Set or something like that. And it's like
Oh, I do. So I do know what you are referencing.
yeah.
Please explain. Please give your opinion. I'm going to withhold comment for a conflict of interest that I'm not going to get into, but I know
Okay.
some. I know parties involved, like through the transitive property.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Kind of like how we knew someone that was involved in the robbery of the
yeah, it's kind of
fucking,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
um so basically the I'll try and not spoil it too much, right? Because obviously if people are watching and want to they want to watch it, right? Or they're listening to us, so you could be watching, right? But it goes into like the dark side of being a child in Hollywood, and some of the people that kind of took advantage of their situations. Um, so the first two episodes are kind of about Dan Schneider, who was a massive like show producer, creator, writer, whatever in Nickelodeon. Like he, if there was a show that you liked growing up as a kid and you're, in your 30s or 40s, there's a solid chance that it, in some way, shape, or form, Dan Schneider was involved in that show, right? One way or another. He created all that, which was one of my favorite shows as a kid. It was basically, and it's actually what it was billed as too, was Saturday Night Live for kids, right? Um, so it kind of talks a little bit about how he started out like as this guy that like got a break and, you know, made some good stuff, but then kind of took like a weird turn and not quite Harvey Weinstein, right? But maybe more Ellen DeGeneres, right? As far as like a toxic work environment, there was some weird, like inappropriate misconduct. Um, if you want to label it sexual misconduct, I guess you can, right? But it's not like he was, you know, making actresses blow him to get parts in movies like Weinstein was, or like weird shit like that. He was just kind of like, that's what I mean. He's more a little bit like Ellen, where he was just kind of like a tyrant. Um, so yeah, it went into that, and then the last two episodes still did a little bit of that, but they also followed Drake Bell, from the Drake and Josh show. If anyone remembers, at one point last year in 2023, there was this big thing all over social media that Drake Bell had like disappeared. Um, Turns out he actually had just like checked himself into a rehab, and kind of did his whole thing, right? Got himself clean, did what he needed to do, and then he sheds a little bit of light on his life as a child star and some of the unfortunate things that happened to him as a child. And I mean, it's kind of wild, dude, because they go back and they show clips from some of these shows. Now, some of them were a little bit after us. Like they talked a lot about iCarly, I think was one
Yeah,
that
so
Ariana Grande was in. No, that was Miranda Cosgrove. Whatever show
she Miranda Cosgrove was like the lead.
she was in iCarly.
Yeah, she was like the lead actress in iCarly, whatever.
Yeah, she was one of the two. There was Miranda Cosgrove, and then there was I forget her name. But the whole reason why I forget her name and she never really became anything afterwards is because she's the one that stood up to all of like the bullshit that was going on. So she kind of got blacklisted. Hannah McCuddy or something like that. I don't know. I forget her name. It was
No
the
idea.
blonde girl because it
I
was
will.
Miranda Cosgrove and then there was the blonde girl. Um,
Yeah, I will say I did have like I'm not gonna. I almost had like two Nickelodeon type eras for me because I probably stopped watching it a little bit earlier than most people. Like I just got into sports like pretty fucking early. Like I was watching Sports Center a lot when I was like 10, 11, 12.
yeah.
But my brother used to watch Nickelodeon, so we used to put
Okay.
that on for him. So it's like even though I didn't watch SpongeBob when like I was that age, I watched it with him. So it's like I'm
Right.
moderately familiar with SpongeBob because of that. Drake and Josh, but iCarly I think was too late. I don't think I ever watched an episode of that.
I didn't watch any of that. That was after my time, as well as Victorious, I think was another one. And I can't remember the name of the show that Ariana Grande was on that she became famous from. but they played clips from those shows, and it's pretty fucked up, dude. Like like watching it as an adult now, being like, dude, that was on Nickelodeon, right? Like, so some of the stuff too, they actually took. You remember Mark Summers from Double Dare?
Yes.
Um, that was a great show, by the way. But at the very beginning of one of the episodes, they like played him clips of some of the shows that were on like Nickelodeon and some of the things they were doing. And he was like holding the tablet watching, and he was like, wait, this aired on Nickelodeon? And they were like, the producer behind the camera was like, yeah. And he was like, oh God. And he just like shook his head. He like had no idea, which I mean, I do believe it, right? And it makes sense. Like if he was super involved in Double Dare and like working at Nickelodeon, why the fuck would he watch other shows? You know what I mean? Like he was probably so busy with Double Dare. Um, and then
Well,
once
he's
he
also
left,
well. The thing is, too, he's also not the market for
correct,
Nickelodeon shows.
he's not watching the shows.
Oh, it's his job.
Um, but yeah, so it was just funny to see him be like, "Oh my god, they put this on TV." Which again, if you remember Double Dare, I know you do, but anyone out there, you remember Double Dare, it was mostly like just get slimed, right? You know, do kind of crazy shit. Global Guts was my favorite with the like the aggro crag and like the fucking um was it like an obstacle course and that shit. The other one was a Legends of the Hidden Temple. That was a great
Yep.
show. I used to love that stuff. And then
Don't
all
let.
that.
So the other thing too is like, if this was like some of the later shows, don't forget that Rocco, Ren and
Oh yeah.
Stimpy,
Oh
Angry
yeah.
Beavers,
Yep.
uh, even Our Real Monsters, like those shows, like if you went back and looked, even parts of Hey Arnold, you're probably like, okay, they snuck that in, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so yeah, they spent most of their time on all that in the first couple episodes because he was the writer, producer, whatever of that show, and it was a sketch show. So they went back and they replayed some of the clips from the sketches, and it's like, oh, that's weird. Like that's a really weird thing to do with children. Like one of them was and they had some of the actors on too afterwards. Like obviously they're adults now. And like one of them, because I totally forgot about this, but part of all that was what was the name of it? I literally just watched it today. It was like something dare, like do this dare or whatever. It was like a segment on all that where they took the cast, and it was basically Fear Factor for kids, right? Like there was one of them where like one of the girls like laid in a tub and they poured like dead fish on her, like little tiny like sardines or whatever. Like they covered her. Someone else had to like put a scorpion in their mouth while someone like held the tail. Um, and there was this one thing where this one kid had to get covered in peanut butter, lay on the floor, and they let loose like 8 to 10 dogs, and the dogs ran over and started licking him. And like they played the clip, and he's a kid at like whatever he was, 12, 13 years old. And he's literally like, I don't like this. He's like, this feels really weird. I don't like this. He said that on the show. Like that was part of the clip. And then as an adult, they have that. And he was like, yeah, that was probably one of the most fucked up moments of my career. It was like I'm 13 years old, I'm covered in peanut butter, and they have dogs come over and start licking me from head to toe. Like that's super weird. So yeah, there was a lot of like really weird stuff. There was a lot of like weird like foot fetish things that they alluded to, like Dan Schneider having like a foot fetish and writing that into his shows and stuff. Super, super fucking weird stuff. They got into like the Amanda Bynes stuff, and um it was really, really interesting. And it, again, now being an adult, looking back on it, kind of is like, I I don't think I ever want anything to do with like real life kids shows, right? Like I don't think those are cool anymore. Like I don't know. You would like to think that, 30 years later, um things have changed, right? Especially probably since that 2015, 2017, the Me Too stuff and all this. Some stuff has changed, right? But like, is it completely copacetic? Probably not, right? And they talk about some other stuff where like, with the kids like working out long hours and they're kids, right? And they're supposed to like be doing school while they're working at all that. And they took some of the kids out of that to make them work like 12, 14 hours a day. They skipped their classes. It was like a lot of like really random things like that. And it's like, wow, no wonder why most of like you see like the stereotype, right? Is the child star, the child actor grows up to be fucked up.
Yeah, drug addicts.
Um, it's it's very clear as to how that can happen. Just watching this little docu series and seeing all of the weird things. And the interesting part that I thought that I kind of took away from it is so you could also make the argument, right? The people that were in the show that were giving testimony, telling their stories were, I don't want to like be shitty and call them B list, but they didn't have Amanda Bynes on the show, right? They didn't have Keenan and Kel on this docuseries. Like they didn't have um what was that girl's name? Lori Beth Dimberg or Simber, whatever her name was. Remember the big girl from all that? Like
I think so.
they didn't
I'm also starting
have
to think I didn't watch as much all that as I thought I did
yeah,
because I don't remember any of this shit.
they didn't have Josh Peck, right? They didn't have Miranda Cosgrove. They didn't have Jamie Lynn Spears. Like they didn't have any of like they didn't have Ariana Grande, right? They had the people that kind of like didn't really make it afterwards. They just kind of ended up being like B list. So
Potentially have
I'll
an axe to grind.
for sure, right? And I don't want to like stand up for like the scumbag potentially that sounds like is Dan Schneider. Um, but you could make the argument that potentially these people do have an axe to grind. Um, so I would listen to that argument. That's fair. But some of it too, I mean, they did have Drake Bell, right? Who was a massive star. Um, but you know, the stories they told, right, are kind of like, oh shit, like that's fucking nuts, dude. But then so the other thing, right, that's what I was getting at too. Um, a lot of those people, right, like the one kid in particular, I think his name was Brian Hearns, who was on all that. Um, his mother was constantly stepping in, saying no, like my son's not doing that. Like that's fucked up. Like that's over the line. That crosses the line. Whatever. Um, and he actually got fired from the show. So they fired this kid from the show because his mother, they said, was too involved or not too involved, but like whatever they said, right? They basically fired him from the show because they didn't like his mom and the things that she was doing and putting the kibosh on basically on the show. Um, and they talk about that, right? And it's like it's interesting that the second someone's parents would try and get involved and stop the situation, they would like get removed from the show or they would get written out or things like that. And it's like, okay, you know. So just kind of some weird shit there. But
Yeah, I
overall,
was like, so
I highly recommend giving it a watch.
without watching, like there's a reason some of these child actors end up so fucked up. And I
Oh
do
yeah.
believe parents have a large role in that. And like I know it's a parody, it's a fictional story, but like Patsy and Jessica Jones
Yeah.
seemed oddly fucking realistic, like even though it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
fiction thing.
I
And
know.
it's like, well, if some mother's going to be a pain in the ass, well, this other kid's parents are going to be pushing them to do it because they might get famous and they might get paid off at the end of the day. And it's like, that's kind of tough for the kid
It's kind
because
of what they alluded to with Amanda Bynes is
the
that
parents aren't
her
setting a good
dad
example here.
they kind of said it without saying it, but they kind of said Amanda Bynes' dad was like fucking, you know, pushing her into all of these things.
Right. And it's because child stars and individual athletes that are successful at a young age, they kind of end up on like a very similar road.
Yeah.
Um,
Because there it's a very weird position to be in, right? Because you are at a child, right? Whether you're between the age of
right.
like 8 to 15, you're the cash cow for the family, right?
Right.
Like
And if they're
you
not going to
are
advocate
making the
for you,
money,
who is?
right? Yeah, it's a very awkward position to be in at
Yeah.
9 years old. You are the supporter of your family. Like your income is what your family lives off of.
And that's the tough part is like I don't want anyone to get let off the hook if they acted in a way that they shouldn't have. Obviously, I didn't see the documentary, but if someone was acting the way they shouldn't have, then like no, you shouldn't be left let off the hook. But there's also like some times where it's like, well, the only representation for the child is either themselves or their parents, and then they might be like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. And then mom and dad, well, if you do that, like, you might make a lot of money from that. Like, and it's like, oh shit,
Yeah,
like that's not what we're looking for here. Like, you're not setting the right thing.
right.
But the other thing that you mentioned with like, some of like the B list people, like you don't have the A list people, you haven't watched the Dynasty yet, right?
No.
Okay. So if you haven't watched the Dynasty and you don't want me to get into this, it's gonna be kind of it's not really a spoiler because it's not. It's also based on history. So if you don't want to listen, skip forward like 5 minutes. The Aaron Hernandez episode, which Jim Murray gave an F minus 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 minus, and I thought was very, very shittily done.
Yeah.
It's interesting because they interview like McCourty and Gronk early on because it was the same draft class.
Mhm.
But then the only guys that really had like a lot of screen time in that episode was Dion Branch, who, if you remember, was franchise tagged because he didn't get a contract and then shipped out to
Right.
Seattle. He eventually came back. That's how he was on the team with Hernandez.
Right.
Maybe he didn't love how he was treated here.
Yeah.
Maybe. Not going to say he was or wasn't. Uh, Brandon Lloyd played one season.
Yeah.
He had a good season, but
Yeah. Yeah.
one season.
Right.
And Wes Welker, who people still will not forgive him for dropping that ball in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Still, they still think Edelman's a better receiver than he was. Like, no, like, still, they cannot like look at the actual statistics that Wes Welker put
Right.
up here and realize how fucking good he really was. They
Right.
just remember he did not make that catch in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Those were the three big ones, dude. Like,
Yeah.
so I found it odd that you have an episode about Aaron Hernandez, which this is not a spoiler. A lot of the stuff tries to like, you know, drag Bill through the mud a little.
Mhm.
And they do get to that, but it's like the three guys you brought in weren't going to have anything good to say.
Right.
Or it's like, and that's not exactly fair to Dion Branch and those guys. They were almost like, well, we noticed he was kind of like odd, and it was always like, don't go party with Aaron and don't do this. And it's like, oh, this guy's in trouble, or this guy he's acting strange, like he might need help, like. So they weren't on there being like, well, if the Patriots had done, no, they weren't like that. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
into that,
Yeah.
but it was an interesting group to have that also did not include comments from Brady, Belichick, Gronk, any of the linemen that played on those teams, any of the defensive players. Like McCourty, again, he spoke early, but he did not speak again, which truthfully, if any of these guys didn't want to speak about Aaron Hernandez, I don't blame them.
Right.
But then my problem is you found three guys that would.
Right.
And I'm not saying you did, I could make an argument that all three of them may have had an external thing to get on
Right.
there for.
Right.
I could make that argument. I'm not saying I did,
Right.
haven't formulated that one exactly because one of my other points with that episode, which that would actually be a spoiler, but again, it's history. It would like those three guys. Then I would be conflicting myself. I would be speaking out of both sides of my mouth. So,
Right. Right.
um, but yeah, I mean, it's like the same idea. It's like we have this documentary. Obviously, that like anytime there's a documentary, there's some type of agenda. There has to be.
Right. Right.
And then it's like, I'm not saying that the people who were brought in are intentional, but I'm definitely paying attention here.
Right. Right.
And I'm not saying like the stuff that happened again, I didn't see it. I'm not saying the stuff in Nickelodeon and the stuff with Anna Hernandez weren't true. It's just interesting who they got and who decided to speak.
Right.
And you were
Right.
never going to get Amanda Bynes. Like, don't like. I
Well,
assure you, you were.
she's like in like a mental institution at
Yeah,
this
I was going to
point.
say. So like, you were never going to get her.
Yeah.
But how are people going to tell her story if it's not her?
Right.
Like, and I'm using her because it's like her and Lindsay Lohan. They're very, very specific examples because everyone knows that they're disasters. Britney Spears, same thing.
Right.
Everyone knows that they're disasters, but you can never quite really know like where their head was at or what was going on or whatever unless
Right.
they speak.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I worked on set with her for like 12 years. Oh, okay, cool. She had a fucking life off the set too. Like, and again, I didn't see it, so I can't say this shit happened or not, but I'm paying attention,
Yeah.
especially now.
Yeah.
The bullshit radar is up.
Right. Right. Yeah. One of the first things I did was, and this is funny too, because I'm not even really a big Barstool guy, but one of the prominent journalists that they kept cutting to throughout the entire series works for Business Insider.
God.
So
Really?
I immediately looked her up on Business Insider to see if she has had anything to do with any of the anti-Barstool stuff, and she actually hasn't. She spent most of her writing career actually writing about Nickelodeon, and like all of like the mistreatment and things that are going on at Nickelodeon. Um, but again, like you just said about the bullshit meter, right? I see Business Insider and I go, I got to find out if this girl is legit or not, because if she had anything to do with any of the Portnoy stuff at Business Insider, I don't trust anything she says, right? But again, like I said, she wasn't, right? She wasn't involved in any of that. But that's not something I would have done 5 years ago, right? Like, oh, Business
No.
Insider. Oh, okay, they're a publication. But like now I'm like, oh, Business Insider, they're kind of full of shit. I don't know.
Yeah.
They put out a bunch of hit pieces on Portnoy for no reason, and Portnoy absolutely shredded them. I better see if this woman is legit or not because she works for BI, right? So it's one of those things. Um,
Well, that's the other part too, is you have to take it with a grain of salt too, because Business Insider has an agenda on everything. Because
right,
that's the other thing is it wasn't just the report on Portnoy. The editor was like the same thing.
right, right. So yeah, just little things you pick up on here and there, but there were actual convicted pedophiles on the set. Again, I don't have to go into because they do pretty in-depth analysis of all that in the docu-series. Um, and my stance on those people is the same, regardless. Just kill them, hang them by their fucking toenails for all I care, skin them alive. Doesn't really matter to me.
Do you remember who employed the death penalty for pedophilia? Was it a different country or was it a state? Must have been a different country.
It might have been a different country.
Fuck. I wish I remember which state or which country. Probably the
Yeah.
Middle East.
You'd be surprised. They're uh they're weird over there. They're boy fuckers. They fuck goats and little boys. So allegedly.
Sick.
Allegedly. If you listen to people that have like been over there for the military, they always make the jokes about that. That
Oh, I knew goat fucker.
they have a proclivity for young boys, and I think goats is more of like a joke,
I
but
think so too.
I think there is like an
But
actual.
listen, but if it is a joke, someone had to fuck a goat once,
That's true. Yeah, stereotypes exist for a reason, right?
or at
That
least
is
tried.
a thing.
I think
Yeah.
a goat would fuck up a human if they tried to fuck it, but
Yeah, yeah, unless it was like sedated or something. But
they can kick and horns and whatever.
yeah. But yeah, no, I would be interested to find out what country did that too. Probably like Australia or something, or China. I wouldn't be, that seems like a China thing, or Russia. You know what I mean? Like one of those places that kind of like, has the ability to do something like that.
Let me see if I can look it up really quick because they deserve a shout out. Um, Death penalty for pedophilia news. Uh, 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 Idaho.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Shout
Did
out
they
to Idaho.
actually do it or they just bring it up? Idaho is trying.
Okay.
Um,
Shout out
there
to
are
Idaho.
there are issues where it might be unconstitutional.
Interesting.
Um, so that they may have to work. Bill has been proposed. Um, but yeah, there's kind of a lot of issues with it.
Okay.
But hey, credit to Idaho. At
Yeah, same.
least someone's
Um,
trying.
so yeah, I mean, pretty solid. Like I said, I would recommend checking it out. It's worth it. So I know you said that you have a potential conflict of interest there, but still
Yeah, I'm
worth it.
probably going to abstain. So I do have a potential conflict of interest. It actually doesn't sound like I do, but that's fine. I'll just pretend I do. Uh, I also, I also don't love the subject matter. Um, I know shit was fucked up, but like, I'm not going to benefit at all from learning more about this.
Yeah.
So I might be out on it anyway. And I'll just assume that everyone that was in a C-suite or executive position was just a bag of shit, and that child actors and young athletes and all these people need to be treated better across the board.
Yeah.
That's
That's
probably
probably
true.
fair.
So
That I would say that's a probably a fair assessment.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's also nothing I can do about that. So
Right. Right.
it's like I'm not trying to dig my head in the sand. But like again, what am I? I can't change the culture of Hollywood. It's
Right.
not possible.
Right.
I'm just here talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. All right. Well, you want to wrap this up?
We can wrap this up.
All right.
Um, porchetta round two.
All right.
Made porchetta today. Um, Still just as good as the first time. I would like to just follow up and still me fighting with people over holiday menus. I am still fucking correct. Porchetta, it's not better than a fucking ribeye roast, but
But it's better than
it's a
everything else.
contender. It's a contender, and it's really fucking good. So
Yeah.
just to follow up, I know I made one. Fuck, I don't even know when I made that. Probably around New Year,
Yeah.
but yep. Just as a follow up, still good.
All right. um, my final thought is I think that so we opened obviously the show talking about sports, and recently um I forget how it even came up originally. It might have been like with Nikos bringing up potentially Vegas getting a basketball team and all this stuff, and we were like making jokes about team names and things like that, and like which team names suck and which things are whatever, like which are what's super dumb or whatever. And it kind of like got me thinking, right? And I said, well, I think that minor league baseball actually has like some of the best team names. So obviously well, more you, right? I say we. It's mostly you. Um, have ties to the Rocket City Trash Pandas, right? That we
Yep.
know is a minor league
I got a
baseball
shirt up on the
team.
wall.
Yeah. So I did some research, right? I looked up all of the team names from the minor league baseball, like all three levels, like single, double, triple A.
I would say because
And
Division Two's not Division Two. Double A has got some good ones.
yeah, so I'm just gonna go through this list and just yell out some of the fun ones. So sorry, they're all alphabetical, right? So Akron is the A's. Akron Rubber Ducks, right? That's pretty funny. The Amarillo Sod Poodles. I don't even know what that means. Like, what is a sod poodle? I
Um,
couldn't tell you, but it's a fun name. It's a fun name. Um,
Sod
this
poodle.
one,
Well, I mean, sod's got to be
well, I mean, sod. I know sod is grass.
grass. Uh, uh, I don't nickname the Saudis.
Yeah, don't know.
I don't know.
So we've got another fun one that is the Augusta Green Jackets, which is
I like that.
actually their logo is a bee, and instead of the bee being yellow and black, it's green and black. So, um,
Sod poodle is a prairie dog,
okay.
or
Oh,
in
okay.
loosely associated with a prairie dog.
Okay. Yeah, slang for prairie dog. Got
Uh,
it.
It's in reference to.
Yeah.
So no
All
one, I
right.
don't think anyone calls prairie dogs sod poodles,
They should.
but you could.
Um, we've got the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. Um, let's see. I'm going down here. The Charleston River Dogs. Um,
That one's easy because they play right on the river. Did you go over there in either time you went?
no, but
The stadium.
I saw the stadium. The Down East Wood Ducks, the El Paso Chihuahuas, um,
They should have just called it the fucking El Paso Taco Bell dogs.
the
I feel like that's what that's in reference.
Fort Myers Mighty Mussels, right? Like mussels as in like the clam like things,
Shellfish.
not not like biceps. Um, the Great Lakes Loons, that's a fun one. Um, Hartford Yard Goats, that's a good one. Hickory Crawdads, Hudson Valley Renegades, that one's just kind of like a fun one to call a team a renegade. The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, Jersey Shore Blue Claws, Jupiter Hammerheads. Um, let's see, the Lansing Lugnuts. It's a funny one. The Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. Let's see, moving down here, the Midland Rockhounds, Montgomery Biscuits, right? Because everyone
Yep, I
knows
remember that one.
The South loves biscuits and gravy.
Remember that.
Um, what else we got here? Sliding down. The Quad Cities River Bandits. It's a fun one. The Richmond Flying Squirrels. Like here we have the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Um,
So just on the Rocket City Crash Pandas schedule, they have to play Barons as normal. The Pensacola Blue Wahoos,
yeah,
Tennessee Smokies, that's Smoky Mountains, Birmingham.
we get the Tri City Dust Devils.
I thought
The
they played, yeah,
Sugarland Space Cowboys.
they do play the Montgomery Biscuits. Do they only play in Alabama?
And
No.
then we've got the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. And
The
that brings us
Biloxi
to the
Shuckers.
W's. And then the last one on the list, because again, it's alphabetical, is Worcester Red Sox, which fuck them.
It's the Woo Sox, dude.
Yeah. So again, just one of those things where like I happen to go through and be like, minor league baseball team names are actually good,
Well,
right? Not like,
minor league baseball is supposed to be fun and cater to kids. It's not. It can't be too serious because the baseball is not as good. So it's got to be like an event, and it can't. I mean, adults aren't going to go, so it's got to be for like it's got to be something fun, like a
right.
stupid team name with a fun mascot, and do some goofy shit.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's kind of where it's at, right? Like I think if you had some fun team names, like that's actually pretty cool. Like what the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? Or like I know they're now the Commanders, but like the Washington football team, even the Commanders, the Washington Commanders, it's fucking stupid. The New York Giants and the New York Jets.
Yeah, but I'm okay with like the professional major sports teams being something quasi legitimate because you don't want your organization to be looked at like it's a fucking circus. Because if you're going to try to get Kevin Durant to come to your team, I don't think Kevin Durant's coming to the Blue Wahoos
He might play for the Trash Pandas though.
or the Savannah Bananas. Like when you get to like the major sports level, yes, go with something like more neutral, whatever. But then like especially like double A, you're not supposed to be there for a career. So yeah, if you have to suck it up and play for the fucking biscuits, guess what? You play for the biscuits for 1 or 2 years. And then you
Yeah,
either move up or you're not good enough and you go fucking sell insurance or something.
right. Right.
And while you're there, you're supposed to like put on a thing, like a little bit. Like, yes, you're supposed to develop your baseball game, but like there are some fans you gotta put on for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think hockey actually has this a little bit figured out. Because they have like the Golden Knights, right? Like that's a cool team name. Um, Anaheim Ducks, right? It used to be the Mighty Ducks, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks.
Kraken.
Um, yeah, the Seattle Kraken, right? The San Jose Sharks, even though it doesn't really make sense as to why they're sharks in San Jose. Um, it's a cool team name, right? Like the Carolina Hurricanes. Well, like, some of like the New York Rangers is fucking lame. The New York Islanders is fucking lame.
But the
Um,
New York Rangers came out in like 19 fucking '05 or
Yeah,
something.
I know. They're an original six, right? But even like the Chicago Blackhawks, like that's cool. That's a cool team name. That's what I mean. I was just kind of like thinking, right? That like I think, some of the sports could benefit from having better team names, basically. And I think that minor league baseball has the best ones, and hockey is probably in professional hockey is probably in second.
I bet if you looked
So,
into minor league hockey, there would be some decent team names.
oh yeah, yeah,
Because it's the same idea, really. Because there is no minor league football. The G League is a little bit of a joke, but I mean, like the main Red Claws, like something.
right, right.
Um, I bet you minor league hockey's got something.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, just one of those random thoughts that I had. So, uh, that's going to do it for us. So thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe up above, hit the thumbs up down below, spread the word, tell everybody you know about the show. You can subscribe also if you're an audio only guy on Spotify or iTunes. Go over and leave us a review over there as well. And then you can get us on Instagram at Sarcasm Speaks Pod. Twitter is Sarcasm underscore speaks. Facebook is Sarcasm Speaks. Website is sarcasmspeaks.com. Go to the merch store, buy some merch, and then also check out the show notes below and support the sponsors. You get all the links and the promo codes and the deals and everything you need, again, in those show notes below. So that is going to do it for us. Until next time, good night, everybody.